In this video, I'm going to briefly describe the built-in help system, docstrings, and comments in Python. Python.org contains a comprehensive set of documentation pages on Python and its many modules. The first line here gives you the links to python.org, as well as the main documentation site for Python. Now, in addition to these resources, the language itself has a built-in help system that will allow you to query for help during interactive sessions. To use the help system, we simply type help followed by open and close parentheses. This brings up the help utility where we can enter the name of any module, keyword, or topic to get more information. As you can see in the last paragraph here, we can also get a list of the modules, the keywords, and symbols, or even topics that the help system includes. So if we were to enter a function, like the print function, and hit enter, we get back the function signature and then some basic information describing what this function does, as well as what its arguments are. So you see that the print function prints values to a string or to sys.studout by default. Now this means that if we don't pass an argument for the file argument here, which is the string, then the function will print out to the console, which is known as sys.studout. In an interactive session, or in Jupyter as we are here, the help utility will actually continue to wait for queries until we type quit to exit the help utility. So using the help utility in this way is really nice if you're searching for something or if you don't know quite what you need and you want to ask multiple queries at the same time. But let's say you just needed a reminder of a single function, didn't want to query multiple times, you can actually still use the help function without entering into this sort of interactive help session. To do that, you can simply pass your query directly as an argument to the help function. So in this case, let's say we want to see the arguments for the print function. I can enter print as the argument to help and then run the block. We see that it gives us back the same documentation we saw before without entering into the help utility itself. Now, if you're using Jupyter or IPython shell, you can use the question mark shortcut in place of the help function. So to do this, we type our query. So in this case, let's say we want to know about the print function, and then we add the question mark at the end. And when we run the block, something a little different will happen. In Jupyter and IPython, instead of getting things output directly to the console or as the output to a code block, you'll get a pop-up window that will contain the same information that we got from using the help function directly. But this will actually stay on your screen regardless of where you scroll in your notebook or in your IPython session. And this can be quite handy if we needed some documentation as a reference while we worked on maybe a larger piece of code. While we haven't discussed strings yet in Python, we're going to cover docstrings here because they're actually used by the built-in help system. So a docstring is a string literal that's wrapped with triple quotes, where each quote can be either a single or double quote character, and it may span multiple lines. So placing a string like this one immediately following the definition of a function, as we have here, will allow the help system to use this string when we query for our function name. So in this example, we have our function name ex_func, and it takes a single argument a. And in the body of the function, the first thing we have is the docstring, which should contain information that is useful for someone trying to use our function. So perhaps the purpose of the function, description of the arguments and how they'll be used, and any outputs that it may have. And in this example, the rest of the body of the function is just going to print out the argument back to the console. So nothing interesting here. We just want to demonstrate what the docstring is and how it will be used. The rest of the code here is going to use the help function to get the help information for our function, which we have just defined. So if we run this block, so you can see that it contains the name of the function, its argument list, and then it includes our docstring exactly as it appeared here in the code. And so if you were to look at the source code for, say, the print function, you would see a similar docstring that matches the help that we saw earlier in the section. What this shows us is that as we build our own applications, and if we're using docstrings appropriately, then the help system will automatically be updated and get that information so that users of your code or users of your application can access your help or your documentation without any further effort on your part. And this is a really nice feature in Python. In this last section of the notebook, we're going to discuss comments. Comment in Python is non-executable code that allows us to add context to our code. That is, it allows us to add useful notes or documentation within the code to help remind us of what our assumptions or expectations were at any point, and to help others who are looking at our code to more quickly understand what's going on or what we intended in that code. To define a comment, we use a hash character, and the comment starts with that hash character and runs until the end of the line. So I'll write this as a comment. And so in this example, the Python interpreter will not attempt to interpret any of the text that follows the hash character. That is, it's not going to attempt to run any of that as if it were code. It's going to simply skip it and continue on with the next line. And so we can see that if I add another line of code here, like a equals 1, this is not included in the comment from the line before. And you can see this actually because the colors have changed between the first line containing the comment and the second line containing the assignment of 1 to the variable a. In fact, many editors support syntax highlighting for a variety of languages, which is actually a very useful tool since this gives us visual feedback on how the interpreter actually interprets what we're writing. Now, comments need not start at the first position on a line. They can actually appear anywhere on a line and can even follow code. Although PEP 8 recommends that you do not put comments in the same line of code and instead give each comment its own line, but the Python grammar allows for this, and say adding a comment here is still valid Python. And to show you that this does work, I'll print out a here, and you can see that the value has been in fact set to 1. Now, while I said that the hash character can appear anywhere in a line and it defines a comment, this does not mean that all uses of the hash character will define a comment. So for instance, if that character appears within a string or a docstring, then it will not define a comment. So for example, if I create the variable b and I assign it to the string containing hash, and then I say this is not a comment, you can see first that in this editor, the color of it is not the same as the comments above, indicating that the interpreter believes this is not a comment. In fact, it's a string. And if I go to print out the value of the variable b, you'll see that it does output the string containing the hash and all the characters following it up to the closing quote. So the reason for this is the quotes actually have precedence here and effectively tell the interpreter that everything between them is to be considered as a string literal. And we'll have more to say on that in the notebook on strings.